how did I first get into environmental health? I suppose my passion for environmental health started actually when I was a child.
Wow.
When a lot of people say like,
Welcome to another episode of Buckingham Blueprint, Diary of an EHO. Today we have with us Natalie Stanton, owner and founder of Safety Expert. Natalie, do you want to introduce yourself?
yeah, hi. So yeah, I'm Natalie Stanton. As Ketan said, I'm founder and director of the Safety Expert. Essentially, I create video-based food safety courses for hospitality.
Amazing. Do you want to sort of take it back? How did you first get into environmental health?
Yeah, okay. So, how did I first get into environmental health? I suppose my passion for environmental health started actually when I was a child.
Wow.
When a lot of people say like, did you know what you wanted to do when you grew up? Like most people don't, but like I always knew that I wanted to be an environmental health
That's
officer.
amazing.
When I was a kid, of course, I didn't actually know what the job title was, but I love programs on TV like Life of Grime. Do you remember Mr.
Yeah,
Trebus?
yeah, well, I remember Life of Crime, and in
Yeah.
fact, a lot of people are put off the profession because they show the worst aspects of environmental health, right? In terms of grimy premises, pests, and verminous, sanitation and stuff like that. So I'm really impressed that that actually attracted you to want to make a difference, right?
Yeah, like it just really inspired me, and also like programs like similar to like food inspectors, where
Yeah.
you see like the EHO going around like the filthy kitchens. I found like those kind of programs like so fascinating.
Wow.
And I think like specifically with the Life of Grime and Mr. Trebus, for anyone who remembers, what I was really like inspired by was like how the officer was like working sort of with him and with the whole situation to actually try and improve things for him, his living conditions and things like that. So yeah, that's when it all started. And then interestingly enough, essentially back in the days when I was obviously looking about what degree to do and how to actually get into environmental health, the internet like wasn't that advanced back then. So when I looked on the CIH website, what I took from it was I just needed to basically get a degree,
Mm.
and then I could get into environmental health. Um, so I did a degree in Birmingham in food and consumer management. So I thought I just needed like a food-based degree. It was when I was on that degree that I discovered actually I needed to do like a BSc or an MSc in environmental health. And I was then told I could essentially just then go on and do an
So did you
MS.
transfer or did you finish your first degree and do a MSc?
Finished the first degree because it gave me like a really good sort of background, like in food in general. Like the whole
Mm.
degree was focused around like food, product development, and there was a management element to it as well. So I finished that degree, and then I was already in Birmingham, so I then just went to Birmingham University, and did the 1 year MSc in environmental health. Yeah.
So within that 1 year of the MSc, food would have probably been about 25% of it, right? So you're also learning about all other aspects of environmental health, environmental protection, health and safety, private sector housing.
Yeah, yeah, and public health. I can't remember.
Yeah,
You may have said
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So all yeah, whole range of I suppose additional things to food safety, and to be fair, like for me, like environmental protection, like was really daunting for me because
Really?
I don't consider myself to be like good at maths, and there was the acoustic side, which was like like a lot of sort of maths calculations and things like that. So that kind of like scared me,
But
but
your
like
passion was food.
my passion
And
was
yeah.
food, and I got
And
like I
you
got
weren't
through the
tempted to
rest.
sort of look at other areas w- while studying
Um,
it.
I liked health and safety as well. And I
I suppose
suppose
there's a lot of crossover with food though, with health and safety in, well, in food premises, right?
there's absolutely crossover, and like essentially like a lot of the time when I'm like doing food hygiene inspections for a local authority, if you notice health and safety issues as well, then you would be expected to like to address them.
Mm.
And when I like first qualified, we were doing joint health and safety and food safety inspections.
Mm.
So this was what, probably around 2011,
Oh well.
the local authority that I got my first job at. Yeah, we did combined inspections, food safety and health and safety as one. That did
Fantastic.
change
Yeah.
as time went on, but
Well, even now, a lot of our local authorities, it's not full on health and safety inspections, but it's health and safety spot checks within the food premises. But also, we do standalone health and safety as well, separate to food. But so you worked in within a local authority, and then you made your transition into entrepreneurship. Tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, so I spent probably just under 11 years in local government. Um, along for probably 8 of those 11 years, I also like had a small consultancy business on the side.
Okay.
So I sort of, I suppose, dipped my toe into like entrepreneurship then. Literally a small number of clients. They were never in the same local authority area that I worked. Always declared to my employer
Yeah,
at the time
because
what I was
conflict of
doing.
interest, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just a small number of clients. I used to condense my like days, so I'd condense my 5 days into four. So I normally have like a Monday to do my own stuff. And then so in terms of my entrepreneurial journey, it really actually started during COVID. So this small sort of side business that I had that I just mentioned, pretty much all of that work stopped overnight because I was
Mm,
working with hospitality.
okay, of course.
Hospitality pretty much shut down. I used to do like in-house training, like auditing, like HACCP systems, all of that, like pretty much all stopped. I was really, really fortunate because I still had a job in local government, although I did transition to set up an outbreak control team in response to the pandemic within that local
Because a lot
authority.
of environmental health professionals at the time moved over to track and trace and other, I mean, and that's, and I think, sorry to digress
That's okay.
slightly, but that's when I think the general public realised that environmental health professionals are the unsung heroes. And I think that's when people actually started to become more aware of the profession. I think before that, unless you've got a visit from an environmental health professional or you need someone, I don't think many people were aware of environmental health as a profession.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like with environmental health, like the skills are so transferable that
Absolutely, yeah.
like EHOs were like so well placed, I think,
Yeah.
to be responding to the pandemic. Um, so yeah, going back to your sort of question then in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, it was during that time that I had time to think.
Yeah.
Yes, I was still working, evenings, weekends when you couldn't really go out and do anything. And what I was really thinking about was I knew like a lot of my clients, they wanted face-to-face training because they felt that their team learnt better.
Mm.
It could be taught by an expert, someone who can like share stories, like practical examples, things to sort of really bring learning to life.
Hmm.
And what I'd also heard was they didn't like some online courses.
It
They
didn't.
Yeah, so like chefs would say to me like if they have to do an online course, like they're not used to sitting in like in an office or behind a computer
Some people
anyway.
learn a lot better in an interactive situation, right? Me,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like that.
Or even at least like a scenario that's like relatable
Mm.
to the environment that they work in. So chefs would say to me, if they have to do an online course, they just click through to the end and then just kind of wing it on the exam. As an EHO, like that doesn't sit well with me
Of course
because
not.
p- people need to learn how to work safely in practice. So that's when I was thinking, right, there's clear benefits to face training. You can be taught by an expert, etc., etc. However, in terms of online, it's more flexible, it's lower cost, and then with all of the issues that hospitality was
And
then
a bigger reach as
facing,
well.
a bigger reach, absolutely. And yeah, with all of the issues that hospitality was facing, staff shortages, all of that, like so many businesses were going to be struggling to deliver face-to-face training. So I was like, how can I combine the two? And that's when I came up with the idea for video-based food safety training that's taught by an EHO. It's filmed in real kitchens with real practical examples. Yeah, to just make things as relatable as possible for people.
Fantastic. And then, so you were working coincidentally. You had your own business. You were working in local authority. But when you made the transition into sort of full-time entrepreneurship, set up your business, did you? I suppose because you were already doing it, you didn't find that transition difficult.
Um, I'd say it was really difficult because I suppose my business before was kind of like a side business. I had a job to fall back on. I had a salary. So then going from sort of leaving local government to kind of literally like I need to make this work, was like it's probably like the scariest thing that I've done.
Wow.
And I have to be honest, like it took probably a good 18 months, 2 years to get any traction. So like if anyone thinks to set up like a business, like I can only really speak from the type of business I set up, but like it's definitely not an overnight thing.
Right.
And was like putting so much in terms of like content, putting so much out there into the world, like free content, free like resources, stuff like that. And like getting very little back in terms of like very little engagement on socials and stuff like that. But I was kind of okay with that because I knew that I just needed to grind away
Yeah.
and like eventually things would get traction.
Yeah, well, it's like a snowball effect with when you first start a business, and we've got, the internet. Although it's crowded, if you're doing something different and you're providing value, um, it builds up traction over a period of time, doesn't it? So, I mean, what would you say was the biggest learning curve for you then, that you set the transition and actually having to, not having that fallback of an income, right? But I mean, in terms of learning, was it mindset and working for yourself, being your own boss? Was there sort of a major learning curve for you?
Um, in terms of like being my own boss and stuff, like I'm quite disciplined anyway, and I
Okay,
like to have like a structure and a routine. So it's pretty much like still get up, same time, work like the same hours. I was probably working more hours, very structured with like planning my day, like what I'm doing when. I suppose maybe the biggest learning curve was around marketing. Like I'd never done marketing before. The clients I had on the other business basically came from word of mouth, and one of my friends actually had a consultancy business that she was basically retiring from, so she just passed me her clients. So I
okay.
never had to do marketing, and honestly, I knew nothing about it. I it might sound funny saying this because obviously I always speak to camera now, and all my courses are video, but like didn't even know how to speak to camera.
You
Like
come across very well.
thank you. Literally, I practiced like every day for a month, just speaking to my phone, like filming it, watching it back. And the first few times I tried to do it, I literally like ran out of the room. I stood in front of the camera. It's like I can't do this, and just kind of run out of the
Oh,
room.
wow.
Like it definitely wasn't something that was natural for me. I think these things just come from practice.
I think with anything, if you put yourself in a situation you're uncomfortable with and you consistently, you would by default automatically get better, right? And more confident because I mean, I've watched your videos, very engaging, really insightful, and you come across really confident.
Thank you. So yeah, I guess we never think the same. Like when we like see
That's
ourselves,
the
I
thing. It's
guess.
like, yeah, when I personally as well, when I look back at stuff, I don't like the way I look, or I could have said that, I should have said that, I should have put. But when I look at other people, I think, wow, that's the finished article. I want to work like that, I want to be like that. So yeah, absolutely excellent. So Natalie, what are your top three guiding principles, and how does that show up in the way you present food safety education?
Okay. Um. So I'd say number one would be like my real focus is on providing value.
Mm,
So I just want to help as many like food businesses like tend to focus on hospitality as possible with actually like helping them get their heads around food safety. I know a lot of it for food businesses is sort of that confidence piece that they're just not confident. So helping people feel more confident. So yeah, I just want to focus literally on just putting value out into the world like as much as possible. Try and do as much free content as I possibly can. I think number two then is making that content like engaging,
mm.
so that the right people can relate to it. And the third one I would say is, yeah, I think making the content so engaging and then making the content relatable. So actually relatable to people working in hospitality, chefs, managers, ops managers, food safety managers, etc. Yeah, just to help them as much as possible.
Fantastic. That's amazing. So one thing you've said that you want to increase food safety awareness at scale. How important is that to you?
So it's yeah, it's massively important. I think especially like with how things are with hospitality at the moment, as I said, face-to-face training is challenging
Mm,
for a lot of businesses to take like the whole team like out of the kitchen for a day
of
and to
course.
train them. But even for like smaller businesses whereby like they probably like can't afford face-to-face training, they don't have enough staff to
Mm,
even bring someone in house to deliver the training. And I remember the days when local authorities used to deliver food, like food hygiene courses. So there's a London borough that I used to work for, and we used to run the level two food safety. It was once a month, or might have been once every 2 months. And food businesses in the borough
would
could,
send team members.
yeah, they could just book on. So like say £70 for one person,
Mm,
and then we would fill a course and we'd run it once a month or once every 2 months,
in
and then
person.
in person
Mm,
people would come to the council offices. I would deliver the course, or there was a couple of other colleagues in the team as well who could deliver it. I don't think that really happens now. I'm
no,
not aware of, unless you are, I'm not aware of any
no. A lot
local.
of the CPD is delivered online or by external providers. Now, councils will send people onto the courses, permanent members of staff, but they're not usually delivered or organised within in situ anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and this would be like the council organising it for food businesses in the
Yeah,
borough to like book onto.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's like so rare now. And that was
yeah,
great for small
yeah,
businesses
of
where
course.
they've only got one or two people. So how do they get access to like good quality training now? And I suppose that's the goal with
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do. Yes, my courses are they're e-learning, they're online, but they're video based. They're filmed in real hospitality businesses with practical examples. So I'm hoping it's kind of like the next best thing to
yeah. Well,
face-to-face training.
absolutely. And I mean, it is the next best thing, and that's the way the world is. And you're not, then you can actually reach a wider audience, but you're showing real life scenarios, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And like if I was to do face to face, like I can only be in one place at once. You can only train so many people. I can't be traveling sort of all around the UK.
Do you do face-to-face training as well?
Very, very rarely. I am predominantly focused on online stuff,
Okay.
the online courses and also like the free content that I've mentioned. There might be the odd scenario where a business reaches out for like a bespoke training and I may do it depending on what they want, sort of what my capacity is, etc. But like it would be very, very rare that I would. Now, I do work with like other consultants, etc., who do offer face-to-face
Mm.
training. So if someone really wants that, then I
Can
could
you
just pass it
refer
on
them?
to
Yeah.
them.
I mean, we recently did, I was just thinking from what you said, the most recent training requirement we've had was London Borough, but they specifically wanted a Cantonese speaking trainer. Um, that was really difficult. We've managed to find someone,
Oh,
but
you
that was
did?
difficult. Yeah. Um, but other
Yeah.
than that, you're right. It's not really something that it's kind of almost phased out over the last sort of 5, 6 years, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a real shame, especially like when local authorities used to offer like level
Yeah.
two food safety for businesses in the borough. I get why they can't because they're so sort of
They're
short.
stretched.
Yeah, they're so stretched. But I feel like it was so great for the business as well to have that interaction with
Yeah,
it could,
because at the
with the
moment,
EHOs from the
almost
council.
a lot of business owners, like you alluded to before, it's a fear of the unknown, and then when an environmental health officer does come and visit, it's almost they're frightened
Yeah,
because they don't know what to expect. They don't. But if they had that relationship and they had the food training, and they'd have a more of a sort of open door relationship with the local authority that they're based in, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's one of the other things I'm trying to do is just put as much information out there as possible to like demystify the inspection process, what's expected, just to help businesses be able to have more confidence, when they're well, to run their businesses, but
Yeah.
also for when their inspection day comes.
Absolutely. So you provide an advisory service, and they know exactly. I mean, look, I've watched your videos, very interactive, and I've learned a lot by watching
I was going to ask you what was the main thing you'd learned, but then I realised I'm
them.
not one of them running the podcast.
So you've just filmed two allergen courses. Congratulations on that.
Thank
Do you
you.
want to tell us a little bit more about them?
Yeah, so these have been in the making since the start of the year, in terms of planning them out, scripting them, rehearsing, and they were filmed in start of August
Wow,
and are launching next week. So
amazing.
there's two. There's one which is level two allergen awareness. So this is for anyone working in hospitality or food service business, who's going to be interacting with customers where customers might be asking about allergens in food, etc. So anyone sort of front of house, also food handlers, chefs, etc. And then level three, allergen management, is for managers and supervisors working in hospitality or food service businesses. There's a lot going on in the allergen space at the moment. I know from a lot of food businesses that it's something that's sort of given them a headache. There's a lot they need to get their head around, but also it's like massively, massively important to get it right. Because it literally only takes one mistake, one thing, which it could literally be fatal for a customer.
Of course.
So I've actually, these courses were filmed with someone called Caroline Benjamin. So she's a food allergen management expert. So it was really, really great to have her input as well.
Amazing.
She features in some of the videos. Again, as I said, we try to make things really relatable and engaging. So videos were filmed in an actual food business. Me and Caroline are attempting to do sort of a bit of role playing, sort of customer waitress scenario, sort of to really act
Who did
out.
you play?
I was the waitress, Caroline was the customer, and we're sort of just sort of acting out sort of scenarios about how to properly interact with customers and things like that. Again, just to make it really, really relatable so that people can hopefully go away from completing those courses and feel confident about having those conversations with customers, confident about preparing food safely for customers. And then a business can build on the training's really the foundation. And then the business can build on that sort of with their internal sort of training, I suppose, that's in line with their procedures and how they want things done in their business.
That sounds fantastic. I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, I'll have to give you access to one. You're welcome to take one of the courses if you like.
I'd like to, yeah, absolutely.
Let me know, we'll sort it out.
Okay, thank you so much. So in terms of food training, how do you see it evolving over the next few years?
That's such an interesting question. I don't know if I entirely have the answer. I suppose I can give you my thoughts. And I mean, the biggest thing that's coming to mind is AI. And I think at the rate that AI is evolving, like, do any of us actually know how anything's going to look in like 2 or 3 years' time? So in terms of training, what I think could happen is obviously a lot of companies are going to create training with AI. I mean, a lot already are, but it's going to get better and better. What I don't know is how well they could replicate like
Human
a
interaction.
human interaction and a real person. And I imagine it's going to be like get to the point where it could be done really, really, really well. But what I like to think might happen is that it actually makes people crave human interaction and a human element more. Like I know for me, like even now, if
That's
I'm
an interesting take, yeah. Because people already almost getting AI'd out, aren't they? And they do crave that real human interaction.
I think so. Like that's definitely how I feel. Like if I scroll through LinkedIn, I instantly know if something's written by like ChatGPT. You see the M dashes, everything's perfectly written, not a single spelling mistake or grammatical error. And I just scroll straight past it because I don't want to read something that's written by AI. I want to read something that's written by a human. I'm almost like relieved to see like a spelling mistake or a grammatical error. Because I feel
That's
like it's real
interesting.
life and like relatable.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether this could happen with training. And I'm hoping, obviously, because my training is all video based and it's
Yeah.
delivered by like myself and I'm a real person, that actually it will maybe make businesses want that even more. Potentially they'll crave face-to-face training
Yeah, and
even
they'll be
more.
warm and more approachable. Absolutely.
Hopefully.
So again, the next question is: so then, what role do you think your business will play in the involvement of the food training, and how do you see that evolving?
So I hope the role that my business will play, or that it will still have a role in that people actually prefer the training because it's created and delivered by a
A
real
real person,
person.
yeah.
And like in all of my videos, I feature real people, real chefs. As I said, Caroline is food allergen management expert. But yeah, other chefs and people working in hospitality feature in the courses as well. So yeah, I hope that's what will happen.
Excellent.
I guess only time will tell. We might be sat here in 3 years' time, having a different
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
conversation.
look, you can always pivot, right? And that's
Yeah.
the beauty of things. If you can foresee things, pivot and adapt. So, no, amazing. Natalie, do you have a practical tip for our listeners in terms of food safety awareness? What
In
they
terms
could
of
do?
food safety
Yeah.
awareness, I suppose it depends on the listeners. Like if it's food business, and they want to be more confident with food safety, prepare for their inspection, then obviously like do as much like reading or research or watching videos, whatever that you can. Like don't just wait for the officer to turn up and just hope for the best. Like you literally can prepare for an inspection. There's no secret as to like how the food hygiene rating scheme works, the elements that the officer looks at. So like it's like with anything, the more prepared you are, then the better chance you have of getting a top rating. And like as I mentioned, I have so many like free resources out there, like videos on YouTube and stuff all around getting prepared for a food hygiene inspection. For other listeners, so maybe like people thinking about getting into environmental health or working in environmental health, I suppose just getting like as much experience as possible. Say if you're thinking of getting into environmental health, seeing if you can like go and shadow some EHOs, you maybe like a short placement or something. So when I was on my first degree, before I went on to do the MSc in environmental health, I knew I wanted to do environmental health, but I reached out to my local council and asked if I could do like a 2-week placement, which I did, and they were really accommodating. I actually went on to work there later on in my career. But yeah, that was just a great opportunity to shadow
To
officers,
kind of
learn
feel
from them.
firsthand what the role entails, and no 2 days are the same. Um,
That's exactly it.
and the interesting type of people you'll meet, the types of premises you'll get to visit. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I think
great
it will
advice.
confirm like whether you actually want to do that career path or not. Like for me, it just confirmed to me that that's what I wanted to do.
Excellent. So, going back to food within a hospitality setting, is there any sort of misconception or myths that you'd like to bust?
Um, Interesting question. I'd probably like let's go back to the training, and I
Okay.
think that I feel like there's sometimes a myth around it, like all EHOs want to see is a food hygiene certificate. But that's not the case. They want to see that your staff are working safely in practice. They're going to look at the certificate, but
I
they're
love
also going to
that.
look at what's actually happening in the kitchen. And if there's two different things, if these things aren't in sync, they're gonna ask you to retrain your staff.
Mm.
So I think don't just think about training as a tick box exercise to get a certificate, but really think about, are my people gonna learn from this? Are they gonna work safely in practice? Because that's what the EHO wants to see, but also like surely it's good for the business as well.
Of course it is, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because quite often, unfortunately, it is just a tick box exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, like not all the time, but like definitely sometimes. And like
Mm.
in my experience over the years, I can spectate food business, I've definitely seen it sometimes treated in that way. Or you go and do an inspection. I'm sure a lot of EHOs can relate to this. You go and do an inspection, you'll see the certificates, but then you'll go into the kitchen, you'll see that that person
Mm.
isn't actually working safely. There's cross contamination, or they're not washing their hands, and you're kind of thinking,
Did they actually do the certificate?
did they
Were
did
they awarded that certificate?
yeah, like, or have they forgotten? Were they even listening? Was it even them that completed the course?
Yeah.
All those kind of things. Or is it that they're just not motivated to apply what they've learned
Mm.
as well?
Mm. Interesting. If you could go back to the start of your environmental health career, would you change anything?
Um, would I change anything? I think like knowing what I'm doing now and like having my own business, and it's always like really easy to say things with hindsight.
Mm.
I suppose I would have maybe liked to have educated myself a bit more around like the marketing side of things, but also like I suppose it would even have been useful for like interactions with food businesses and stuff, trying to take things from the angle of always thinking about like the other person's like always thinking about what's in it for, well, we're always thinking about
Yeah.
what's in it for me, and that's just kind of human nature and how people think. So even like those interactions with food businesses, thinking about it from that angle. So when you're speaking and trying to get them to do what you need them to do,
So
trying to
you try and put
position it
yourself in the mindset of
of the other
yeah.
person to sort of motivate
It's
them more to do
fantastic.
what they need to do. And that's kind of something that I've really learned through like have building my business and like the marketing side of things. So I suppose that knowledge like would have been useful.
Excellent. So Natalie, where can our listeners find you, follow you, and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so Instagram, the underscore safety underscore expert, Facebook, the safety expert, LinkedIn, Natalie Stanton, YouTube. As I mentioned, I've got loads of videos on there, so that'll be the safety expert as well. And then my website, if you want to find out more about the courses, is www.thesafetyexpert.co.uk.
Fantastic. Make sure you follow Natalie. Amazing stuff I've seen online. I've learned a lot. So yeah, follow her, like her, comment, share. Thank you, Natalie, for joining us today on the Diary of an EHO. It's been a real pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me.
Real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much.